Hi everyone, thanks for listening in. Probably one of the best ways I can communicate because my emails at the moment through Sale Mail are out, and this is just a pretty easy way. Right now it's day 67, it's Thursday, February 16. I'm sitting in the cockpit, it's sunset. There is very little wind. Looking at it now, it's less than 6 knots of wind, about less than 2 knots of boat speed, and I'm below 50 degrees south and about 87 degrees west, 600 miles from Cape Horn. And it's a bit chilly. And that's what I wanted to just have a chat about is what I'm wearing. Because on this trip, I've actually not been cold. And some of that is the weather itself has been more mild than I anticipated. Apparently, sea temperatures, ocean temperatures are a few degrees warmer than usual. But also, I've got some great clothing, and I just wanted to just describe what it is I wear and what it is that keeps me warm. I'm going to start at the top. I don't have much hair, if you've seen my photos. Not much hair happening up there, so keeping my head warm is important. I always wear a bandana underneath another cap. I've got a range of knitted caps. My daughter Mel is a great provider of caps. And so I've generally got 2 caps on plus the hood that is part of my outer jacket. So my head's pretty well covered and a good way to keep warm and ears warm as well. I've got a couple of other things that are really cold, like rabbit fur-lined caps, but need to be careful when I wear those because they tend to come off in the wind. Clothing-wise, this is a long layer thing. There's an underlayer, middle layers, I should say, and an outer layer. When I talk about an underlayer, I'm talking about long johns and an undershirt. So I'm wearing an undershirt, and over the undershirt, I've got 2 other long sleeve sweatshirts. And also when I go outside, I'm wearing either a woolen sweater that my daughter Mel knitted for me. It was like a 12 or 16 gauge sweater. Or if it's not that cold, put on a vest. So lots of layers around my chest. And then I've got an outer layer, which is when I go outside, which is Gore-Tex jacket and Gore-Tex bib and brace. Amazing technology, the Gore-Tex stuff. It can get wet, and yet within 15 or 20 minutes of being in the wind, it pretty much is dry. On my feet, I've got a pair of leather and Gore-Tex boots, and I always wear woolen socks. Got some great socks from my daughter Kate called mongrel socks from Tasmania. And over all of that, I've got my life vest and harness when I go out into the cockpit and on deck. I have sailing gloves, and over the gloves, if it's cold, I've got Gore-Tex mittens. They dry. They're waterproof, and they dry quickly and keep my hands warm. Putting all this gear on and off occurs 4 or 5 times a day, all night, and is just part of the routine of daily boat life for me over these last 60-odd days. There's a bit of a backstory, though, in all of this. And when I talk about a backstory, I'm talking about a biological backstory, because taking a pee takes on a whole different logistical activity and thought process. And it looks something like this. The first thing that's got to happen is the life vest and harness buckle needs to be undone. The next thing is that my outer layer Gore-Tex jacket zip needs to be zipped from the bottom up to give me access to my outer layer Gore-Tex bib and brace zip, which also needs to be unzipped from the bottom up. That then gives me access to my mid-layer Gore-Tex salopet, bib and brace, which also has a zip on it, which needs to be unzipped from the bottom up. There's lots of potential here for things to get caught in zips if you're not careful, but having got to my mid-layer salopet zip, I'm down to my boxers and my undershirts. And I dig my undershirts out of my boxers, and you'd think then that, well, we're there. It's so cold in this place that the object that I'm looking for half the time is pretty hard to find. But that's the process, and I've got to say, you wouldn't want to have an incontinence issue with all these layers of clothing on. And just as a closing thought, I'm a guy. I understand this would be even more difficult for women. So my thoughts to all you girls out there who are sailing, there's got to be an easier way than all of this. And just as a closing note, I've got some problems with my steering still. I said in one of my earlier blogs that it had been making some noises. Well, the noises are back, and they're a little louder than they've been. And I think I've got it localized to the steering pedestal itself. It's not the rudder, not the linkages underneath. It's actually in the pedestal. I'm just going to have to see how I go as I get closer to Cape Horn and what I need and can do for that. Anyway, thanks for listening, and I'll have another blog coming out over the next week.